Welcome to the InnovaBuzz podcast, where our job is to help you build visibility, professional credibility, and connection with your ideal client by putting the human at the center of innovative marketing, so you can build and strengthen an engaging, enduring relationship with your ideal clients. I'm Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBuzz, and I'm honored that you're here with me. If you haven't joined our wonderful marketing transformation community yet, go to innovabiz.co and collect your free gift as well. Do subscribe to the show and also leave a review because it helps others find us. Let's get into today's masterclass on this InnovaBuzz podcast.
Stop thinking about big projects and instead think about small processes. It's really overwhelming if you say, oh, I want to do something that's going to take 6 months or 12 months or 18 months. Take any goal or any task and break it down into smaller pieces, and it suddenly becomes manageable. Real success doesn't come from like a massive win or having a viral video. What real success comes from is consistent action every day.
Welcome back. I hope you've had an awesome week so far. If you haven't yet listened to my recent conversations with Karan Nijavan of Jube and with Jamie J of Bottleneck Virtual Assistants, then do check them out, but only after you've listened to today's episode. I'm really excited to have on the InnovaBuzz podcast as my guest today, Jonathan Greene from Serve No Master. After being fired from his dream job at 29, Jonathan vowed he would never be in a position that vulnerable again. Now, he's a multi-bestselling author, a celebrity ghostwriter, and he lives on a tropical island in the Pacific with his loving family. His mission is to help others achieve financial freedom, become their own boss, and ultimately serve no master. In our discussion today, Jonathan talked to me about turning your knowledge into a business. We talked about listening to your audience and the gift of feedback. And Jonathan explained his philosophy of extreme giving and the exceptional customer experience. Without further ado, then, let's fly into the hive and get the buzz from Jonathan Greene. Hi, I'm your host, Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBuzz, and I'm really excited to welcome to the InnovaBuzz today. And this is the first guest I've had in this situation from a small little tropical paradise island in the South Pacific, Jonathan Greene, who's a best-selling author. He's the founder of Serve No Master, and he's also host of the Serve No Master podcast. So welcome to the InnovaBuzz podcast, Jonathan. It's a real privilege to have you as my guest.
Oh, it's so great to be here. Always glad to chat with you. It was amazing having you on my podcast, and now I'm really glad to hang out on yours.
Yes, I did have the privilege of being on your podcast, and I also had the privilege of contributing to your Build Your Business Now Summit back in July, which I'm not sure how we crossed paths before that, but that's where we got to know one another. And so I'm really looking forward to digging deeper into your business today and into your life. But before we start talking about all things book publishing and serving no master, tell us a little bit about some of the pivotal moments in your journey and how you landed on that beautiful South Pacific island.
Yeah, my journey began more than 10 years ago in February of 2010 when I lost my job. I just signed a lease on a new apartment, bought a new car with a massive car loan, and I came to work Monday in a blizzard and they fired me.
And this was in the US still, right?
Way back in the US, this was in the snow. So I was driving to work and I was like, look at me, I could take the day off because they said if it's too dangerous, you don't have to come to work. And I was like, no, I'm going to show them that I'm so dedicated. I'm going to drive it and be slipping and sliding rows in my new car. And I pull in and they were like, we're letting you go. And it was the pivotal moment in my life. And I said, I never want to feel this way again. I never want someone to have the power to affect my life so dramatically. If you think about it, when you have a boss, they can do so much to devastate you. I knew someone, he had a baby, and in December and then was fired before Christmas. He was like, that was the best time ever to lose my job. Like,
Mm.
when you work for someone else, they don't look at your life. They're just looking at their numbers or statistics. And when it's time to let you go, it's time to let you go. And often it's not your fault. It can be things outside of your control, whether the CEO made a poor decision or they decided to, they just want to make more profits. And so they let go of 10% of the staff and just tell everyone to work 10% harder to make up for that. All of these things outside your control. And you lose your house, you lose your, so now my transportation was in trouble, my home was in trouble, my ability to pay my bills was in trouble, my ability to pay for food was in trouble. All of these things that are all tied into our revenue stream. So for many of us, for most people, we have a single revenue stream, and if we lose it, we can go from the good life to the no life. And that's happened to some friends of mine. I had a friend, he was an executive, one of the largest companies in the world. They downsized him, not for something he did. They were just downsizing, a 10% cut. They always call it downsizing because they don't want to make it sound like what it is, which is really a
Mm.
slaughter. And he went from living in a 4-bedroom house, and he just signed 2 leases on really nice cars, and he was living in a studio apartment with like a mold problem, and his wife got sick. So it went from like really good to really struggling, and that's very common. You don't realize what can happen, especially because when there's these seasons like right now where so many people are out of work, the market is so competitive for every single job that it doesn't matter how wonderful you are, or because there's 50 people from the same company with the same qualifications and the same recommendations are all popping into the job market at the same time. And it's really what happened to me. I said, I don't want to fight for another job. I don't want someone else to be able to squeeze me again. And so I began to pursue what I've always been on the side, which was an entrepreneur. I never had really thought of myself as an entrepreneur. I never thought I could start my own business because I've been taught over and over again in school, work for someone else, job security, job security, job security. I finally realized after 10 years, I was like, man, I'm not making any money. I'm not happy with my life, and I'm not going anywhere. I don't want to be beholden to someone else. I don't want someone who to decide one day they don't like me and
Mm.
fire me. Like, people can just do that. They can just go, John, I don't like your haircut. You're fired. And there's nothing you can do, especially when you live in a right to work state, which really means a right to fire state. So I began to experiment with online marketing and building an online business and trying a lot of different ideas. And the first things I tried were like selling local services, and I would shoot videos for local businesses and post them on YouTube and Dailymotion and all the video sites, because this was before YouTube had totally dominated. And that was how I made my living. And I began to build a small business, which turned into a local SEO agency. And that was really my first success online. I was like, wow, I can act, people will pay me to do stuff that's not hard. And I also discovered that whatever you say the price is, people will pay it. So the first client was paying me $200 a month. The next one was paying me $500 a month. And eventually I had someone pay me $2,000 a month. And when you work for someone else, you can ask for a 10% raise, but not a 10x raise. That would never happen. So this showed me how much control you can actually have. And it's really scary, but it's also really exciting. It's the amount of control you have because you're all in. You're all in on every decision. It's either all the reward is yours or all the toughness. And even now, 10 years later, like, it was the getting fired was the best thing that ever happened to me. They basically said, get out of here, go have an amazing life. It was like that that moment where like the kids telling the dog to go out and have an adventure. Get out of here, get.
Mm.
That's what they did for me. Like, they thought they were destroying my life. And I make more than my boss by a lot, and I make more than her boss from when I got fired. So, and I work 10% as hard as they do. So they gave me the greatest of gifts of all time, which was absolute freedom. And it's what led me to where I live now. I was traveling the world full time. Someone I met through a business relationship says, hey, John, going on a double date, you need to come with me. And I was like, oh, that sounds like a terrible idea. Double dates is my least favorite kind of date. Went on the date, did not like the girl. She did not like me. Terrible interaction. He was like, don't leave, because if you leave, then my date's going to collapse too. He's like, I have an idea. He starts ordering all these tequilas, and now I'm married with 4 kids. So, he was right. He had a good idea. Like, it turns out if you hate someone, tequila will make you marry them and have a whole bunch of kids. So we're still together, still friends with him as well. And that was 100% someone I'd met through a business connection. I met his business partner in New York at a random conference, and then I met him because he was traveling through the city at the time in Asia. So you can have all these things become possible when you unlock from the commitment of a job. You're trapped to one location, you're not trapped to one revenue stream, you're not trapped to one boss. You can have all of these different opportunities. None of these would come into my life if I hadn't been fired that day. So like my kids are the result of that firing.
And I'm guessing that having the 4 kids and with the lifestyle you've got right now, you've got plenty of time to spend quality time with your wife and your 4 kids and do fun things on that tropical island.
Yeah, so I go surfing every day. I have a really great local surf instructor. You know, he was looking for work because so many people are out of work right now. I was like, hey, just come surf me every day. And we mix it up. We do surfing or paddle boarding. We're always on the waves. And today, after school, I'm bringing my 2 older kids and we're going to do surfing together for an hour, hour and a half. And it's really exciting. They love it. They want to go all the time. So I get to do all of these things. My biggest like challenges now are dealing with like being bored and having lots of free time. And my wife is very pregnant, so she can't do stuff with me. So the challenge I face now are a lot of it are time filling. Some days it feels like because I've got my business to a point where it's pretty automated, I feel like I'm not that important. So it's like the next phase you get to is where you're like, wow, this business will run even if I'm not here. Sometimes I'll message someone on my team like, oh, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? And they've done all of it. And they're like, why are you asking? I did that last week. And I'm like, just want to feel needed. So you get to this crazy place in life where you can eventually have just a really great machine running. And I still do some things that are important. They just don't take a lot of time. Most of it's the networking, like things like this, only I can do, whether it's me hosting the podcast or me appearing on someone else's podcast or me recording live videos. So that stuff is what I have to do, but it doesn't take 40 hours a week. So I probably work hard 10 hours a week and gently another 15 or 20. So it's still like pretty close to a work day, but it's not like it was before where you go into work and you have to stay until 5 o'clock. You have to stay until the bell rings, even if you finish all your work. And if you do a really good job, you're punished. If, you know, traditional job, if you finish a month's worth of work on the first day, they just give you 30 more months worth of work to do for the next 29 days. There's no, and I have this with my team, it's very tempting with employees to, because they're paid per hour or they're paid per week, even if they're on salary, that you judge their work by how much time they spent working. And it's really, really critical to build in any type of business to be focused on output, to say how much got done this week. And that's really, I learned that lesson as an employee. And now that have so many people working for me, I've learned it as a boss that I really want to see what were the results. How many things did we sell this week? Did the podcast get published? How many people listened to this week's episode? How many people watched our videos on Facebook or watched our YouTube channel? Those are the metrics of like results. So first we have the output, which is like, did the videos get published? And those are more important. So sometimes people work for me and they go, oh, can I work this weekend? I want to get in more hours. So it's like, why are we having this conversation? Of course you can. Like, I don't care what hours you work as long as your work gets done on schedule. And being able to run a business that way means we can be highly efficient, that I don't punish people for finishing their work fast, or I don't make people feel like they have to work 8 hours a day. One of my top people is moving today, right? He can't work for 2 days because he has to move apartments. He had an situation, and it doesn't matter. He was able to work extra hours earlier in the week to get everything ahead. So then he has that freedom. So I try to pass into my team the same things that really matter to me, like the ability to be there for your family, the ability to have the free time when you need it and not feel that pressure, because many jobs, especially when you're getting paid per hour, if you're not there, you're not getting paid. And if you're not there, someone has to be there because they're all tied to time and you lose your job. And that could be really tough. It's a tough situation right now. And I want to give my team that best experience. And fortunately, because I spent so long working for bad bosses, I've learned just a little bit about how to be a good boss.
All right. Well, what is it you do today then in your business and why?
So the main thing that I do is teach people how to turn what they know into something they can sell. So for a lot of people, they don't realize the value of the knowledge inside of them. And it can be really simple things. It can be, you know how to cut hair, you know how to build stuff in the backyard with your kids, all the way up to you're really advanced in physics or math or you're an accountant. And whatever it is that you already know, you can leverage that into a business. And it can be, maybe you already have an asset you can leverage and you don't realize it. Like you have a garage you don't use. Well, then you can rent out that space. So whatever that is, I start off saying, well, let's figure out what you can leverage to start making revenue in a way that's scalable. A lot of people, when they think of like side hustle, which is a term I don't really use, I know it's cool, too old for that. It's you end up working for someone else. You're working for Uber, you're working for Lyft, you're doing Airbnb, but those aren't really businesses because you're working for someone else. I think Uber every month for like the last 6 years has cut wages every single month. So that's not the business I want to be in. The same thing for Airbnb, right? Airbnb is hard. Either you're renting out the space where you live, which means it's not scalable because you got to be somewhere else when you're renting it out, or you're trying to leverage other properties and there's always issues. Like it's illegal almost everywhere. That catches up to you. Like they recently had a Supreme Court decision a year or two ago in Thailand. Airbnb is 100% illegal. Anyone who gets caught doing it, massive fine for every single day, all sorts of stuff. The guest at least doesn't go to jail. Like I looked that up, I was like, wait, because I discovered it when I was renting a place and I went in the building. There was a giant sign in front of the building, Airbnb is illegal in Thailand now. And I was like, whoa, I don't want to go to jail. But fortunately, so I looked it up and
yeah. We were staying in San
So-
Francisco at an Airbnb, and we had a similar experience. There was a private summons for the person renting the property placed on the door in the corridor of the apartment building, so everybody could see what was going on.
Yeah. And so we fall into the mistake of thinking working for an app is like a business. It's not. It's a great way to make a little extra money in between your other jobs. Like if you're an actor, then it makes sense because you need to be able to work whatever hours you want, and that's the value. But for building your own business, what I teach is you need to find something that you can scale and that you can raise the price on. So whatever you're doing, like let's say you're an accountant, so you work for someone else, your boss is paying you less than you generate. No one would ever pay you. If you generate $10 an hour in profit, they would never pay you 11 because they would be losing $1 an hour. The business would go out of business. So whatever your boss is paying you, it's less than you're worth. It has to be, or the business wouldn't operate. And when you look at like a larger business that has like a physical footprint, like a store, you're paying the rent of the store is coming out of your effort. You're talking about everyone else's salaries, health insurance across the company, which is amortized. So it's like they're averaging across everyone who works there. So if you're the healthiest person, you're still paying more. If you're the sickest person, maybe you're getting a good deal. But all of these things you don't even realize, you can probably double your salary just by going independent. And often that is just a matter of changing your LinkedIn profile to say, I also offer one-on-one consulting after work hours. And you can start to get clients. Like people always say, Jonathan, how did you get your first client? Here's all I did. Made a website that was terrible. It was literally unreadable. It was blue text on a black background. It might as well have been a polar bear blinking his eyes in a snowstorm. It was literally, you could not read it. But that became my pitch. I would go, my website is terrible because I'm so busy working on your website. So I said, I'll just turn whatever my greatest weakness is into a justification. I was like, oh no, the website looks terrible because I'm only working on client stuff. I don't have time for my own stuff. I said, if you want me, in every meeting with the client, I'll go, do you want me to work my own website or yours? And they would always choose theirs. So I go, well, that's why I never have a good website. Eventually I did have time to build one, had the money, but it took me 4 days to get my first client. All I did was post an ad on Craigslist. Post an ad on Craigslist saying what I would do, and I made a little flyer. So it was like an image ad, you click on it, and the person gave me a check for $200 4 days later. It was amazing to me. I said, wow, this is possible. And that first payment is so important, whether it's $1 or 42 cents. The first time money goes from the computer into your life, whether it's a check or a direct deposit, it changes how you see it. So it goes from possible to real, and then success becomes much more likely because most people give up. They don't have the motivation. So what I try and teach people is the fastest path to making a little bit of money online so they can see that it's possible. A lot of it starts with leveraging existing asset and doing something that's still trading time for money or effort for money, and it's linear, but that's in order to get you some breathing room between you and your job. Most people spend, in America at least, spend 10% more than they make. So when they get a raise, they also get more debt. Like they get a higher credit card limit and they use it. And that's basically every American. So you have massive amounts of debt. Everyone has student loan, everyone has credit card debt. Then you buy a house, then you buy a car. And what you're doing is kind of load balancing and saying, well, which one has the best interest rate? Okay, I'll pay that the most this month. All of that stuff. So most people at least are not increasing their net worth. They're trying to get back to zero. Most people are trying to get back to the same value they had when they were born. And that's really unfortunate. So I try to bridge that gap first. So the first thing I say is, let's get you to where you're making 10% of your salary so that you're back to no longer increasing your debt, but you're at break even. which most people are happy to get to. And from there, the amount of stress you have goes down so significantly. Like everyone, I've had money issues in the last 10 years. It hasn't been all roses. We've had some tough seasons. We had a couple of tough months this year. We've had some pretty significant family emergencies. Like my entire savings went into some medical bills for my wife and kids one year. Guess what? Got to get back to work. You got to get out there. So having the ability to raise more capital when you need is very freeing. So when you're not scared and you hit 10%, because if you can make $100 a month, you can make 200. You make $200 a month, you can make 1,000. It's that first piece that's so critical that it goes from, oh, I've heard you can make money online to I know I can make money online. So I really try to teach people that. And then the more advanced part of the business is really teaching my core business model, which is called extreme giving, which is what my entire business is built around. When it says every single person who enters my life, whether they're a customer or in the pre-customer phase, I want to give them more value than anyone else. So I spend, out of a week, 10% of my time I spend on paid content, whether that's coaching calls or creating products. 90% of the time is stuff that I put out for free. I want someone to see more YouTube videos, more Facebook videos, more posts, more blog posts, read more free books, get more free training that works for me. Because then when they are ready to spend money, they go, man, everything Jonathan showed me worked and was amazing. So they have this massive feeling of rapport with me, a massive feeling of connection, because I didn't hide everything behind a paywall, which is what I used to do. So by over giving, you can form a relationship in any market. You don't have to do anything hard. People always say, oh, I need a big audience to get started. You don't. I did not have a big audience. My audience now is 15 times bigger than it was last February. So in 18 months, it's grown 15x. How? Because I said, I'm just going to reach out to every single person I want to do any type of business with, invite them to do an event like you. We reach out to you and said, hey, we'd love to have you in a summit. And I say, let's make sure that every participant gets more than they give. So if someone sends me 100 customers, I send them 200. If someone invites me on a podcast or if someone sells a bunch of my product, then I'm going to try and sell more of theirs. And I'm always trying to be like the best person when it comes to paying affiliates, when it comes to rewarding people participating. I say, what is everyone else paying? Everyone else paying 40%, let's pay 45%. Everyone else does this, I want to do more. And I'm always trying to do that, not just to be manipulative. I mean, it's great that it has a result, but it's more important that I want to be the person everyone wants to work with. I want to be the person everyone wants to hang out with. And you can enter any market this way. You can enter any market with the biggest giving heart, and audiences will be attracted to you, and other people want to work with you. There's no one you can approach in business and say, hey, if you give me $1, I'll give you $2. That's going to go, no. Come on, like no one's going to say no to that. So if you have that mindset, and obviously that's a Ponzi scheme, so you can't actually do that, but that mindset of whatever you do, I will do more for you. I will over deliver and give back to you tenfold. Suddenly business is easy. So you can enter a market and you can start meeting people and say, hey, I have an event or I'm doing something cooperative and I want to invite you, and here's other people that be invited. And by bringing the event together, it creates the value. A great example of this is like TED Talks. No, I don't know the name of the guy that organizes them, and probably nobody does. Maybe you do, but I certainly don't. No one cares about him. He's just an organizer, but he created an event, and then the event has this momentum. And now there's all these other kinds like TED Local and TEDx and TED this and TED that. And all of it came because you bring together great people. And if you go to each person, I want to let you speak to my audience, and he's got the rules. Like, I don't know how long the TED Talk is. I think 18 minutes or whatever the number is. And here's all the other people. There's going to be scientists and poets and this and that. And it's really, when he was starting out, no one knew who he was, right? But you create this idea of the audience is going to have an amazing experience. Your customers are only going to be exposed to amazing speakers and amazing content, and you're going to get exposed to everyone else's amazing content. That creates momentum. So when you switch from trying to sell stuff to trying to give, it's really, really easy to build a business. And I wish I figured that out 8 years earlier. I wish it hadn't taken me 8.5 years to figure out, because I was like, I'm an author. You want to read one of my words? You got to pay for it. Yeah. But once I switched to this mindset, everything is so much easier. Every time I outreach to someone, our biggest issue is when I invited people to the summit you participated on, too many people said yes, way more than we were expecting. So our conversion rate or our response rate is so high. I was like, oh man, we didn't have the infrastructure for that. We were trying to grow slowly. So now, before we have our next event, we're doing massive infrastructure. We've hired new tech people or doing all this back end so that we can support a larger audience. And obviously, we don't want the partners or the customers to ever see that. But on the inside, I was like, we should be doing better for our partners. We should be over delivering. We should be doing more. We should be doing better. Because that's my number one conversation. It's never we should be making more money. Obviously, I always think that, but it's really, I don't want anyone to ever see us blink. I never want a customer to have like a video not play or something not download. Like that stuff drives me crazy. It's always outside your control. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
this website, like I just bought an hour ago this new antivirus software. And when I went into the dashboard, it was down for like 7 minutes. I was like, what? Like,
Great.
of all the companies in the world, like, how can you? I read so many reviews and it was like, oh no, I bought the worst one. What happened? They're out of business. But it's, it was working 5 minutes later. But those, even a tiny minute of a bad experience, I never want to happen. And when you switch to that mindset of generosity, all the other things that I used to work really hard at, like chasing sales and getting on the phone and conversion and push, now that I don't have to think about that, my life is way less stressful because I just do things that I like. I can just do stuff that I can give away and create content for the purpose of helping people, because I know that when you give first, the profits will always follow. And I was listening to a comedy podcast today, and these two guys were talking, and they're like, they look the same. They go to all the same auditions for the same parts. And they were like, he's like, I really thought I was unique until I walked into an audition room and I saw 20 other guys that look like me. And that's a real revelation that we aren't as unique as we think. The thing that about me that's unique is not what I teach. As much as I have this idea of generosity, I didn't invent that. Like I didn't invent the idea of give people good stuff, right? Like I wish, but nothing I teach is 100% unique because businesses existed for thousands and thousands or millions of years. Maybe dinosaurs had businesses, and it's not that. The people like me, and then they buy from me, or then they want to learn from me. And that's how we choose people. We choose, and when I look at who I listen to or who I spend time with, or which gym I go to, well, I go to the gym where I like the trainer, right? I might have a choice between two trainers, one who will give me a better result, but I hate them, and one who will give me a mediocre result and I like them. Well, guess what I'm going to choose? What I like. Like that's how we make our decisions. So of course we choose our teachers or instructors the same way. So it's more the stories. Like people are more interested in the story about. I got an email last week from someone who's like, Jonathan, I love all your emails. I wish you'd include more pictures of your kids. I'm a grandmother. I'd love to see more of them. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
that's the connection. That's what she finds interesting about me, and that's how we can differentiate. So worrying about the other stuff is not as important. It's the story that matters, because that's how we choose who we work with and who we spend time with.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack there, and the idea of extreme giving. I mean, you've really explained well some of the results out of that, and that's definitely something that I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about. I guess I want to start though with if somebody's in a position to say, well, I want to start a new business. You've convinced me I'm fed up with my 9-to-5 job, and this idea of job security, and actually that's less secure than if I did something myself. And so where do I start?
So my belief is kind of a 3-step process. I believe that every business has 3 components. There's traffic, which is people finding you, discovering you, hearing about you. There's engagement, people starting to like you, becoming your friend. And at the end of that, there's profit. That's where, whether you're selling your own products or someone else, you have stuff in your store. So those are the 3 phases. So at the beginning is you have to figure out who you want to be your customer. You have to know who they are, what they like. So an example of this is that every single social media girl who's ever worked for me, I'm not good at social media. I've had every single one of them is in their 20s, they're millennials. They look at my website, they go, your website is terrible, I don't like it. And I said, and I always have to explain, that's because you're not my demographic. My demographic is 40 plus. My demographic sees my website, which has my website has a whole plan to it. It's based on a 1940s Dick Tracy comic book style. And what happens is when people see that, number one, they always know it's my website. You're never unsure. Like you're never wondering whose website you're on, because I'm the only one that does it. And it gives you a flicker of, oh, I remember those comics in the newspaper, or I remember my parents liking them. So it's enough to activate a specific thing. But people under 30 have no idea what I'm talking about. They haven't even heard about, they don't even know about the Dick Tracy movie from the 1980s. Like they have no idea. And that's important. If my audience was millennials, everything would look totally different. My entire approach would be different. My entire messaging would be different. And if you don't know who you're talking to, which is all, the more you can dial into who your audience is, their age, their gender, because fitness for men and fitness for women, it's a different message. They're trying to get different results. Men want to be stronger and they want to have really big muscles. Very few women want to have giant muscles. But if all your ads to women said, get the biggest muscles in town, you could beat up everyone in the bar, most women wouldn't respond to that advertising. Some would, but that's because you're not paying attention to who you're talking to. So you have to make sure you understand who your audience is before you do anything else. And then you want to figure out what their biggest problem is, what they want, what they need, and then just give it to them. So if you figure out what everyone needs and who you want, who they are, well, then it starts to fall into place. So that's really kind of my big picture strategy is I look, where are these people spending time? If it's Facebook, then I'm on Facebook. If it's this is such an example of this. It happened to me when I was in my late 20s. I was 27 and I moved to England to go to music school. I was DJing and producing, and every night, all the guys I knew would all go to the kind of pub that no woman would ever set foot in. In the first 6 months I was there, I remember once 2 girls walked in, looked around, and walked right out. And at the end of 6 months, one of my friends was like, how come we never meet any girls? And I was like, because you have the same number of girls here as you do in prison. Like, I realized that we were going where we wanted to be, and you have to go where your customers are, whatever that is. So I had to go to the kind of places where I have big crowds, loud music, place I would feel uncomfortable, because otherwise I'm never going to meet anyone. So we have to step out of our comfort zones into where our audience is. We have to find out where our customers are, where they're spending time, what they need, and then meet them there. And when you do that, it's much easier to start a business. This is why when you buy a franchise, the location is so important, because if you choose the wrong location, then the customers aren't in that neighborhood. If you choose, like if you have a product that's very expensive and you're in like a blue collar neighborhood where no one can afford your product, then it doesn't matter. So you have to match what your audience needs, what they can afford, to what you bring to them. And that's the opposite mindset. Most people create a product, create an idea, and then go looking for an audience. That's very hard. Very, very, very hard. Yeah, it's much easier to go the other way around. And here's the best thing. People will tell you what they want. People will email you and say, will you make this product? I want to buy it. I do that. I've emailed people whose software I use. I was like, look, man, why don't you double the price and add this feature? Gladly pay it. Because we all would, right? If there's a feature that you want, whether it's in a car or your electric toothbrush, you're not going to keep it a secret. You don't want to buy it for whoever figures it out. You'll tell them. People love to give their opinions. Look at Amazon. Every single thing has a review. I read a review today of a book that was so crazy. It was book 2 in a series, and the guy reviewed book 3, which hasn't been written yet. He goes, I have a feeling that book 3 is going to end up like Appomattox. And I was like, wow, this is a future sci-fi book. This guy's convinced it's going to end like like a battle for the American Civil War. And he's like, if I didn't think that was going to happen, I'd give this a better review. I was like, that is not fair. Book 3 hasn't been written. You might have guessed wrong. So people love to share their opinions more than anything else, and you can pay attention. And there's really easy ways to do that. What I like to do is I'll go to like a Facebook group or a forum. Now it's more on social media. It used to be I would look at like a Quora question or a Yahoo question before that and see which questions got asked the most, and then even more important, which questions got like the most traction. Because you can see like how many views and how many answers, and you see like, oh, this one has 100 views and this one has 6,000 views. I'm going to know that's more interesting to people. So even by people's viewer behavior, we can figure out what they're interested in, what draws their attention. And we no longer have to like struggle for marketing data. Like before the internet, you had to pay a lot of money for marketing firms to do research and have people in like a room and say, which of these 2 things do you like? What do you not like about this TV show? All of that stuff. We don't have to do that anymore because all the data is out there and you don't have to pay for it. So you can look at what do people like? What are people responding to? What type of messages do they like? What type of things do they do? I ask people all the time when they participate in events. My most common question I ask is like, hey, what's the last thing you bought online and how much did it cost? And that tells me a lot. That tells me what kind of money they spend online and what kind of products they're responding to. And it's really wide variance. I've had everything from a car all the way down to I downloaded a book for 99 cents. And that tells you where people are, because some people will only buy stuff through Amazon. Like they will not shop anywhere else online. And that's totally fine. That's who they are. And some people would never shop on Amazon and they only shop in like very specific ways. So just to understand your audience, you can just ask them. It
Mm.
seems like really hard, but it's not. People
Yeah.
will tell you. So that's how I think you can start any business in any niche is find where your audience is hanging out, show them that you're like not a sleazeball by trying to sell stuff right out the gate, and just hang out and be like, why do you like this? Why do you like this music? Why do you like this band? And they'll tell you. I don't understand the music teenagers listen to. I've already gotten to that age at 39. I'm like, I don't know, why do they listen to this? It's terrible. You know, like, uh, you should listen to what I listened to 20 years ago. It was really good. This is not as good, right? But you can ask them and then they can explain it. Some people have a really sophisticated answer, and sometimes it's like, this music makes me feel X. And if 50 people say that, then you know that's how you want to make them feel. You
Mm.
can find the answer in the data. Just like
Yeah.
1 out of 10. Oh,
That's great advice. I mean, it's a classic. To me, it's classic human marketing, but so many people ignore that, forget about it, and get things the wrong way around. Like you said, they develop a product first and then go try and find a market for it. So, talking to customers, you've identified a problem or a need. You've decided, hey, I've got the skills to address that need to help you go from where you are right now to that new state you want to be in, that, have that feeling, solve that problem. So tell us then, how do you take that extreme giving mindset and use that to start building relationships with the right people?
so what I do is I create something of value to give to the people in that audience so that I can speak to them again. What I want is more chances. If someone visits your website and then leaves, if you don't get their email address, you're not in control. You can only speak to them again if they come back. What I want is ability to speak to you. So I want to, for me, I'm mostly an email communicator, but you can be Instagram, Twitter, WhatsApp. I found out this week that WhatsApp is a social media platform. I had no idea. That's how behind the times I am. There's always new ways, but however you want to be able to communicate with them, where you can send a message when you want to and they'll hear it. That's what you want, is to build up, whether you call it a list or an archive or a file. They used to call it in direct response marketing. However you want to communicate with your audience, and you give them something of value that's valuable enough that they will give you that piece of communication, that will open that line of communication with you. A common mistake I see people making is giving away free gifts that are terrible, that are trash. And this is big and small companies do this. People have this mindset of your email address isn't worth very much. So I'm going to give you just enough that you'll give me your email address, because once they have it, I know that an email address has a certain value and then it enters into my numbers. I know what an email address is worth over time. And so they give the bare minimum. And guess what? Your audience, your entire audience, probably a little bit hates you. They follow you because some of your stuff is interesting, but they always have this feeling. But if someone else comes in and is competing with you, even a small guy comes in and goes, hey, let me give you something that's 10 times better than that, and says, I respect you, because to me, an email address is really, really valuable. Probably the most valuable thing you possess, because it's an open ear. And I hate spam. I hate when I get emails that I didn't ask for. I hate how many people send out an email without an unsubscribe link at the bottom. I hate that stuff. So when I get it, I know that I would pay. I would probably, there's people that pay $20 a month to have like services that block those emails and stuff. They have extra services on top of whatever's in their email provider. That's how much people care about their privacy. So if you then go in and go, well, I know you pay $20 not to have an email, so I have to give you a gift worth $20. I have to give you something that's actually valuable. What I want, like when I give away a book, I want you to read it because you're going to like it. I just have been working on my new book on extreme giving, and I was talking to my manager on my team, and she was like, wow, this is really boring. And I was like, no, that's like, to me, that's the original sin. That's the worst thing you can say. I've been working on it for 3 months. I said, okay, I threw the entire book away. I started again from scratch this week. I wrote from word one. I had to start all over because you can't give someone a boring book. That's like, you might as well ask them to hate you. I might as well walk up to every person and say, if you give me your email address, I'll slap you. And people don't think that. Like, it has to be something that, it doesn't have to be a book. It just has to be something that meets your promise and they can implement. So you can give a one-page PDF that teaches people a really cool trick. I once learned from a life hack that you can cut a potato in half and use it to unscrew a broken light bulb. And I had to do that once. And it worked. I couldn't believe it. It worked. I was like, stuff like that never works for me. I'm not handy. And that still sticks with me, right? So you can do something really small. Like, here's how to solve this specific problem. So it's tempting to go, I'm going to make a free gift that solves 50 problems. No, no, no. It's better to do something small that someone can consume in 10, 20 minutes or an hour, no longer than an hour, and they can do it and it works. Because then they know you teach them stuff that works. Like, don't teach people a really advanced magic trick. Teach them a really simple one that anybody can do and they can learn really quickly. It doesn't have to be super impressive. It just has to be proof that when you say something, that's what they get. Because it's the first step on the ladder of trust, which is before people buy from you, because the question they say is, well, will I actually get what I bought? And
Mm.
now they know that when they bought something, their email address. So, and you gave it to them, you go, oh, I'll give you a video that shows you how to do a magic trick, or I'll give you a video that shows you how to build something really simple. If you're doing like backyard projects, I'll teach you how to build your own shovel out of wood that your kids can use. Like, here's how to build 3 wooden beach toys, takes 20 minutes, costs $4 from supplies at the hardware store. Everyone would buy that. And then when you say, let me teach you how to make a radio flyer wagon on your own for $100, people will say, yeah, that sounds great, because I know that what you teach I can implement and have success. And that's a really important question that a lot of people skip over. I see this all the time. People give away really garbage gifts and they're like, well, I just hope no one reads it. Or they call it a book and it's not a book, or it doesn't solve the problem. When I get that stuff, I had someone who I bought courses from before. I took one of their free books. It did not meet the promise. It had a very specific promise. It was 50 pages of other stuff leading towards something else they wanted to sell. And I was like, well, I'm done buying from you.
Mm. Yeah, that's the one. That's the most common one I see, is where you get, they make a promise, and then you get the lead magnet, whether it's a book or a video, and they give you a whole lot of reasons why you need to solve this problem, and they turn up the pain of the problem. And then when it gets to crunch time, like, okay, now tell me how to solve it. They say, okay, now if you want to solve this, here's my program that you have to buy, or here's my product that you have to buy. And I say, well, you actually said I was going to solve the problem through the lead magnet. So it leaves you hanging, and it kind of takes away from that trust there, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it destroys trust. I think
Mm.
it's much better to solve a small problem and then go, okay, I showed you how to change your oil. Let me show you how to, fix everything else on your car. So you can show something small. It doesn't have to be something big. It does. That's the mistake people make, is they think, oh, my lead magnet has to have a massive promise to have high conversion. It doesn't. I know people who will pay more money for a faster solution. Like, if you were in back pain, I said, look, I've got a solution that takes 18 months, a solution that takes 10 minutes. Which one do you want?
Mm.
Nobody's picking the 18 months. Like, we think length equals value. It doesn't. That's a total misconception. And I'm guilty of writing really long books because I very love the sound of my voice, but it doesn't mean that's the right answer. Often the best answer is shorter. Brevity has a value in and of itself. You say, hey, I know your time's valuable. Let me show you this trick. Takes 5 minutes, boom, result. So, and you have this massive amount of trust that these other people don't have. That's why people who have much larger followings than me. My own following is not as large as people think it is, but I sell as much as people with followings about 10 times as big as me, and I way outsell everyone else. They go, how do you sell short? I'm like, well, it's because I like my audience. I just
Mm.
saw, actually, one of my audience members bought something that I didn't recommend to him that someone else did, but he bought it through my affiliate link. So I saw the notification. I was like, I'm probably going to email him and tell him to refund it, because I was like, I don't think it's the right product for you.
Yeah.
Guess what? I lose money today, but I'll make money in the long run because I want to give people that value. So the hard thing about extreme giving is faking it. Like, some people hear this and hear me explain, they go, oh yeah, I'll just fake it. It's really hard to fake it because you'll forget at some phase of the relationship, and like, then it will break. It's much easier to just believe and do it. Then it's
Yeah.
easy.
Well, there's something you said there a moment ago about getting your client to refund the money, and you forego the affiliate payment, and I think that really is core. That what you care about most is their success, and if you believe that that product isn't going to contribute to their success, you actually tell them that, even though it might hurt you. So that, to me, that's part of extreme giving as well. So, hey, we're not a good fit for one another. Mate, that will be another example of that, and refer them on to somebody who might be a better fit.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I'd like to explore a little bit is, from that first lead magnet, let's call it, that book or that transformation you've given them and you've got their email, how do you then go about building on that relationship, on that fledgling relationship? How do you nurture it? How do you keep giving, and then the transition to actually a paid product?
So my process now is, first phase is killing with kindness. So day one, you get a gift. Day two, you're getting another gift. Day three, you're getting another gift. Because I want people to go, the first gift was amazing. There's another gift, and just I want them to be overwhelmed with my generosity. So I want to solve 3 problems. You don't have to do this. This obviously takes more time to build up to, but I really want to give a lot of value, and I want to demonstrate. Basically, I want to overcome as many objections to a purchase as possible. Like, I want them to know if they email me, I'll reply. I want them to know that if they have a question, I'll answer it. I know that if you reach out to support, the answer will be there. If they need to download something, the download link will work. The more of those things people can experience early on in the relationship, easier everything else is. So I want people to experience as much of that positivity as possible. And then it's important for me to people to understand how I market. What I do is I create a relationship and then I curate. There are millions of products online that you can buy, and some of them work and some of them don't. My job is to put in front of my audience courses that are the right fit for some of them. Sometimes people email me and go, Jonathan, this course is not the right fit for me. Why'd you recommend it? I was like, no, it's not the right fit for 99% of my audience. But there are things I don't know how to do. I don't know e-commerce. I've never sold a physical product. Like, if you want to sell necklaces online, like a friend of mine does, one of my first great success stories, he's sold millions of dollars of necklaces through Facebook ads and e-commerce. Guess what? I'm going to tell you to go to my friend Jack, because I don't know how to do it. So it's, even though you like me, you might want to do something different. Like, if you want to start a franchise, I'm not the right person because I don't know how to do that. I've never done that. If you want to get really good at social media, boy, not me. So I put in front of you, but that doesn't mean every person. Like, I don't expect every person to buy every product. I'm saying my job is to really scroll through and make sure I don't put garbage in front of you. So make sure that instead of you hearing thousands of messages, you just hear 1 or 2 a month that you can choose from. And you go, oh, this is the right fit for me. This is the right for me. Oh, this one is interesting. Oh, no, it's not right. And then maybe number 4 is the right fit for you. That's my approach. And it's never the hard sell. If people call me or email me and ask about to buy a product, very high odds I will say no. Because if you need to ask me if it's the right fit for you, it's probably not. Because when it's the right one, you know, because you go, wow, this is exciting. I can see myself doing this. I'm not just buying it because they promise big money. What I'm excited by is the process interests me. This type of business model is something I see myself doing for 20 years. Then you're in the right place. That's the type, then you're going to respond right away. So if someone messages me things, some of the people are like, oh, is there a way I could split this over 3 credit cards? I was like, don't do that. Never, never, never do that. If you're in that situation, wait for the right fit. Wait for the right time. Go through my program to make money online and go through my free courses first, generate revenue, then use your profit to grow your business. I'm a big believer in that. And that back-end integrity means that when they are ready to make a purchase, then I'm the person they come to. And that's what I want to be. I want to be their trusted advisor. So as people spend time with me, I have a lot of my own programs that I teach. I say, oh, if you want to learn this, here's how to do it. If you want to learn that. And I just put those in front of people, never with the hard sell, never with the hard push. And if they respond to it, then they do. Sure, I could have sharper sales pages and have higher conversion rates with big promises and a lot of threats and scarcity. But I find that over time, I do much, much better just by saying, here's all the things I can teach you. Here's how this one has worked for me, or that one. Like, if I'm teaching how to blog or how to do a podcast, here's my real results. Because sometimes I see people that have a picture from like 17 years ago. I'm like, okay, well, that's okay. So that's really the marketing message. Now, you might be someone who just has a single product. Like, I don't really believe in starting a business with a product. I think it's better to start as an affiliate, because then you can see what people like. So if I enter a new market, which I do, I'm in about 6 or 7 markets right now, and I'll try to find 30 to 90 things that I find interesting and I think are pretty cool. Like, I have a large segment of one of my audiences that loves to buy magic bracelets. All, bracelets that make all these different promises. And I would never hard sell one of those. In fact, I wouldn't normally recommend those, but they email me and go, Jonathan, help us, I want to know more about these different bracelets that do different things. And so, okay, I'll share those with you. And I do a soft sell. I go, oh, here's a cool new different type of bracelet that I saw. I don't make a hard claim on it because I don't know anything about bracelets that like help you boost your immune system or any of those things or make you feel more confident. But I'm not going to deny people the right to look at what they want to look at. Like, unless it's something that I find totally unethical, but like a $10 bracelet, like, okay, that's fine. Like, I certainly, there's certain things I definitely don't recommend. I won't go into certain markets, but like, if people say I'm really interested in this, then I'm going to allow them. If people want to buy like custom tarot cards, okay. Like, to
Hmm.
me, that's what they want. It's not like selling people something dangerous or illegal or like really expensive. So I allow people to tell me what they want. And you can ask your audience, hey, what do you like? An example of this is my friend. He's in a fiction. He's in the fiction space. He does fiction books, really big following. And he asked a group of people. He goes, hey, do you guys, if I put out more audiobooks, how many of you like with special effects in the effects in the background? How many without? And he got a 50-50 response. And I said, yeah, that's because 50% of people have heard an audiobook with good effects, and 50% of people have heard an audiobook with bad effects. And so that's what their answer is. And what you need to do is get a sample of what your effects will sound like and say, here's 10 minutes of no effects, here's 10 minutes with effects. Which one do you like more? You need to get cleaner data. And even better is to say, which one of these are both for sale. This is $10, this is $11 because effects cost more money. Buy one. When people vote with their money, that's a real vote. Everyone's got an opinion. But when it's time to spend money, suddenly you get real data. So I love to get data from recommending other people's products because then I don't have to make the product. And then I know once you sell a bunch of something, this is what people buy the most of, I'll make my own version if I can. And then that's the business model I'm a big believer in. I think that it simplifies things a lot. Then you don't accidentally make a product that like everyone said they would buy and then they don't. That happens a lot. That happens way more than people want to admit. Is that you asked 50 people, they all said they'd buy it, you made it for sale, then none of them bought it.
Yeah, that's really great advice. That basically, I love the idea of selling other people's products because then you don't have to build anything. Because the classic lean methodology is that you have sort of a minimum viable product and you get people buying in, and then you develop it with them together by getting their input in ways that you've described really well. But the idea of using someone else's product as that minimum viable product takes it to another level. So that's really great. All right. Well, this has been fabulous, Jonathan. I'm just looking at the clock here, and we've had so much fun that time is getting away from us. So I think it's a good point now to move on to the buzz, which is our innovation round, and it's designed to help our audience, who are primarily innovators and leaders in their field, with some tips from your experience. So I've got 5 questions. Hopefully, you'll give us some really snappy, insightful answers that'll prompt the listener to go and do something awesome today as a result.
Okay.
So what do you think the number one thing is anyone needs to do to be more innovative?
Listen to your audience. It's so easy. Like, I live in the middle of nowhere. It's so easy for me to not talk to anyone and come up with business ideas and build something. But it's much better to pay attention to what people are talking about, what people are interested in, and then react to that.
That's great advice, and you've given us lots of examples throughout the conversation today in ways that people can do that. So I encourage you to listen back to those tips. Now, what's the best thing you've done to develop new ideas?
The best thing I've done is say yes. So I try to do a lot of things that are outside my comfort zone when I get invited to things or do things that are hard, like whether it's a public speaking engagement or whether it's participating in a different type of event, by going outside of my comfort zone or listening to ideas that I think are bad ideas and then giving them a try because I'm not always right. Last year, so my team had an idea and I said, that is a terrible idea. And it was the most profitable idea for the entire year. Changed our entire business model. I said it in my head. I'm glad I didn't say it to her. I was like, this seems like a really dumb idea, but go ahead and try it. That's basically what I was thinking. I was like, because I'm not always right. So being willing to try things that are out, that other people's ideas, unless you have specific data and you've tried it already, I will try any idea my team comes up with. As long as it's one I haven't already tried and failed, I'll go, let's give it a try. And that's really helped us to innovate and grow.
Yeah, great advice. I love that. And it's the concept of doing lots of experiments, right? So trying things out and then being nimble at the same time, I think, is important in this, being nimble and adjusting and adapting. And of course, if you've been listening to your audience and you know what they want, then you've got lots of information that helps you kind of pivot and adapt those little experiments. Now, what's a favorite resource of yours that you use most often?
Scrivener. So it's a word processor that changed my entire business model. Once I started using it I use it for everything. I use it almost every day. I'm not very good at it. There's a lot of really powerful features. I just like that it lets you break anything you write down into small sections. So instead of working and writing an entire book and having like 1,000 pages in front of me, I could just write 500 words at a time. So the ability to like create folders and subfolders within a document revolutionized how I write and how I can create a marketing campaign or write a book or write a video script because I can break it up into smaller sections and it's never daunting. It takes away the scariness of what I work on.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, I've looked at Scrivener. I've never really resonated with it, but it is a fascinating concept, and like you say, it sort of gives you the ability to break things down into smaller bits to work on. So I'll revisit it, have another look, and we'll certainly post a link in the show notes so people can check it out for themselves. Now, what's the best way to keep a project on track?
Systems, processes, and project management software. So I until 2 years ago, I had no systems in place. Everything I did was just in my head, seat of my pants, nothing written down. When I started growing my team, a big part of our growth came from whenever I develop a process, I write it down and then other people can do it. So it allows you to have like quality control within your own company. It allows you to track your progress to see that you're doing things right. And it also, of course, eliminates a lot of mistakes because you skipped a step because you didn't write it down, so you forgot about it. All of these things can be handled just by writing down your process, and then it becomes replicable. Then you can actually hire someone else to do it. Once I master a process, I can pass it down to someone on my team, and even I train my team to make their own processes. So any type of project management software will solve this problem and it will help you to stay on track. That's how I do all of my projects. It's the only reason I'm able to operate at my level of efficiency.
Yeah, that's great advice, and that's probably one of the big secrets to why you're bored sometimes. And people don't actually need you in the business anymore. And we've got an episode publishing soon. Well, it's publishing soon as we speak, but it will be published. So check back to David Jennings about systemology because he talks about this in great detail on that episode. And the final question of the buzz round, what's the number one thing anyone can do to differentiate themselves?
Reveal your personality. A lot of people think that a business means the business they build a brand and they don't, and then look at the biggest brands in the world. What do they immediately have to do? They have to hire celebrities to become their representatives because people don't buy from brands, they buy from people. And the more people know you, the more likely they are to buy from you because they're going to like you. So this idea that you need like a business newsletter, a business style, that you can't have any of your own personal in your stories, it's the exact opposite. So the more of you inject into your marketing and the earlier you do that, the faster your business will grow.
Yeah, that's certainly great advice, and it does clearly differentiate you because nobody has a personality like you. It's unique. Okay, well, Jonathan, where can people find out more about you and maybe even get in touch and say thanks for what you've shared today?
Yeah, the best way is to head over to my website, Serve No Master. You can search it on any social media platform, search on any search engine. Every result is me. So, I'm fortunate that no one else has the same name. And you can see my books, you can see my podcast. I have loads of content. Of course, if you want to email me, it's just my name at Serve No Master. And I read every email myself because I want to answer every email myself because that's me meeting my first promise, which is that I will communicate with you if you communicate with me.
Great. Well, there we go. You can reach out to Jonathan and mention this podcast, ask him some follow-up questions if you like, and he will personally answer those. All right. Now, is there some parting advice you'd like to leave the listener with today?
Yeah, my best advice is to stop thinking about big projects and instead think about small processes. It's really overwhelming if you say, oh, I want to do something that's going to take 6 months or 12 months or 18 months. Take any goal or any task and break it down into smaller pieces, and it suddenly becomes manageable. Real success doesn't come from like a massive win or having a viral video. What real success comes from is consistent action every day. the real success of my business is that every single day, the small tasks get done over and over again. Recording a Facebook Live every day, posting a video every day, posting a new blog post every day or every week. Those small actions are what adds up to massive success. And they're far more powerful than someone just having a crazy day where they get a viral video and get 1 million views and then it turns into no sales.
That's such great advice. And I'm reminded of my children's piano teacher when they were younger. They were learning at a very young age these huge piano concertos that, would go on for 30, 45 minutes sometimes. And they would commit it to memory and be able to perform it from memory. And I was always amazed. And I remember having this one conversation with the piano teacher and said, how do the kids do that? Because, our kids weren't the only ones. All the students were able to master these things. And she said to me, it's like eating pizza, one little piece at a time. And that stuck with me ever since. So I think that's really good advice to, take big projects, break them down, and then be really consistent about those little steps. All right. Then finally, Jonathan, who's someone else I need to get on the podcast for a conversation, and why?
Let me think. Someone I look up to is Derek Depker. He's the first person that showed me what you could do with audiobooks. He's the first person I learned about Amazon ads from. He's got a great podcast. I've been on his podcast. He's been on mine. He's one of those people who every time he does something, I'm jealous. So he'll post a video and I'll post a video and he'll get more comments. So I'm always trying to catch up to him, like things like that. So he's just really good at that. So his podcast is great. And some of the things that I learned, he's one of the people that I've learned from.
Okay, well, we'll get an introduction to Derek from you, and we'll see if we can make a time to have him on the show as well. So thanks so much for sharing your time and insights with us so generously today, Jonathan. This has been really amazing. You've sort of outlined a great process for starting a new business, getting really clear on who it is that your ideal audience is and what kind of things that they do, what kind of problems they have, where they hang out, and then connecting with them and using the mindset and philosophy of extreme giving to start to build that relationship and then serve them. So I wish you all the best for Serve No Master and for your future, and have fun surfing on that wonderful tropical island, and let's stay in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
I hope you enjoyed that informative and engaging conversation with Jonathan and took something away from his episode. He really wrapped up his entire business model and endeavours in the extreme giving mindset and shared so much helpful information today as part of that. I'd love to know what you took away from Jonathan's episode. Leave a comment below the blog post, which you can find at innovabiz.co/Jonathan Greene. That is JONATHANGREEN. All lowercase, all one word, innovabiz.co/Jonathan Greene. You'll also find contact information for getting in touch with Jonathan there, as well as links to the Serve No Master website, the Serve No Master podcast, his social media pages, and the other resources we spoke about in our conversation today. Jonathan suggested that we have a conversation with Derek Depker, founder of Excuse Profit Fitness, on a future InnovaBuzz podcast episode. So Derek, keep an eye on your inbox for an invitation from us to the InnovaBuzz podcast, courtesy of Jonathan Greene. Tune in again to the next episodes of the InnovaBuzz podcast, where we've got even more fantastic guests lined up, including executive coach and psychologist Richard Orbe-Austin and Rebecca Arbona of Brand True. Thanks for listening to this episode. Make sure you subscribe to the show to be reminded of new episodes. It's free to subscribe. Leave a review if you like. Even if you don't like me, I'm okay with that. I'm asking you to leave a review because it helps other people find this show. Go to innovabiz.co to join our marketing transformation community and access a free gift my team and I made for you. It's the Marketing Master Mini Class. We want to give you everything you need to transform your marketing into a human-centred, relationship-focused growth engine. Until next time, I'm Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBuzz. Remember, be awesome and keep innovating.